7th episode of Gen Z Investing Insights. And I'm just going to get right into it with my first question. We finally reached a debt ceiling agreement, but not without a lot of fear mongering on TikTok and Twitter. Do you guys think that financial content and investing content that's maybe not like direct advice, but things that have like direct consequences, like you saw with the banking crisis and the VCs who were fear mongering during that? Do you think the SEC or the government should implement more regulations towards content about finance on social media?
I think with the evolution of social media, especially, I think it's really important that the government starts to implement at least some type of regulation to prevent false news. I know there was a story on the news the other day where AI generated like an image of like a huge fire happening somewhere, and it was completely false, and it crashed the market for a little bit of time. So I think with the advancement of AI and social media together, it provides a really dangerous environment for misinformation, and it could really manipulate the market in a way.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how the government will actually like regulate this. There's so much that goes on TikTok. There's so many different accounts. You can have like misinformation will spread one way or another. So I think for the government to really spend time and resources on it is kind of like to like regulate it wouldn't really be all that optimal. I think it'd be better if the government really had like a giant site where real information promised by the US government was pushed out.
I think what Twitter does is really good, where they have the independent fact checkers who are more of moderators. I think that works really well. It's a good fact checker. I think it's just um, important that the people who are fact checking, there's like um, checks and balances in progress to make sure that the people who are fact checking aren't like BSing as well. Um, but yeah, if there could be someone who like moderates on social media where it has like below a post like this is true, this is false, I think that would be super helpful for everybody. The next question I have is we did talk about the debt ceiling a little bit, and Alex, I want you to explain for the people who don't understand why we're $32 trillion in debt. I had this teacher who like didn't understand it and was like, how are we in debt? Why can't we just like print more money to pay people off? Alex, can you explain what the national debt is?
Yeah, so the United States government is in debt because the United States spends more money every single year than what they make. So we're in a deficit. So essentially, every time the United States wants to pay for something, it has to get money from somewhere. And so the money can come for instance, tax dollars, right? Like we all pay tax, or our parents pay tax, right? And the tax money can be used to pay for things. However, since we spend more than what we actually make, we have to get the money from somewhere. So the government issues bonds. And what bonds do is they allow the government to essentially borrow money. So if you buy a bond, you give money to the US government, which is where their debt comes from, and it allows the government to spend the money. However, they have to pay you back over time. So through bonds, it essentially puts the US government in debt to people because they don't make enough money to spend on what they would like to spend on.
Yeah, I think you covered most of it. Pierce, do you want to add anything else?
I think that was a really good explanation.
All right.
Nothing else to add.
We'll get into my next question. So I was on Twitter and Bill Ackman made this like it was multiple paragraphs of him like justifying people voting for Jamie Dimon. And I think Jamie Dimon is like he's a really good CEO. I really like him. But president, I'm not sure yet. Do you guys think it would be like a good choice to vote for Jamie Dimon for president?
The facts is I think Jamie Dimon will probably favor more investment, considering his interest, and he probably favor the wealthy a little bit more than maybe some of the other candidates. So I think it's a matter of it's very much a what if question, because I don't think they're going to have a lot of lower socioeconomic individuals voting for someone who they view is kind of oppressing them in a way. So I think it's very much a what if question. But I mean, I'm kind of indifferent. I haven't really done too much research on what Jamie Dimon's policies in terms of what he would run upon, but I'm sure it would definitely be interesting.
Yeah, I think he's a well calculated man, as we've seen with all the banks he's been buying up. But I I don't. Does he have any interest in running for president? I don't know
I
why
don't
he.
know. I think it was just Bill Ackman being weird.
Yeah, well,
It always is.
I think it's an interesting claim. I agree with what Pierce said. I feel like there's a type of audience that would really want Jamie, but I don't know if it's best for America to have someone who's so calculated and enriching himself be our president.
Yeah, I mean, he's run the financial world pretty well, but I don't know if he would run the world in general pretty well. I don't know what his policies would be. I don't think he would give a lot to more social programs. I think he would definitely favor the wealthy a lot more, as you guys covered. But yeah, I don't know why Bill Ackman said that. It's kind of wonky. The
Yeah.
next thing I want to get into is that Nvidia hit 1 trillion in market cap. What company do you guys think will be the next to explode in the sense of being like their market cap is increasing because of AI?
Facebook, I think Facebook will be the number one, or at least one of the top beneficiaries from AI that isn't really seen right now, just because of how big their digital marketing footprint is and how most of the revenue is made from digital marketing. So as digital marketing uh, gets more specific with the advancement of AI, I think consumers consumers will be more likely to purchase products based upon the AI that's given to them. So I think as a result, Facebook's gonna have a large increase in revenue due to AI.
I thought I had an original answer and it was gonna go with this company named Facebook, but you already took them. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. They do have a couple of AI projects going on right now. If they can integrate AI into their different platforms like Instagram or Facebook, um, they'll do it. I mean, they're at 700 billion in market cap right now. They could do it in the next 3 years. And if they like publicize and make more platforms based on their existing AI projects and monetize it as well, 3 years, 2 years.
I think another company, I don't know if they'll hit 1 trillion, but Tesla, Elon Musk AI in the full automation, I really think that gives Tesla a competitive edge when it comes to any sector of the car industry. Full automation for trucking is a huge money bag for Elon. So I do think that that will increase Tesla's stock price and their overall market cap. I think it's overvalued as we speak, but that's a topic for later. But I do think that Tesla will gain from AI, especially because Elon Musk has such a big, I don't know, presence in open AI.
I think that's a good lead into my next question, which is that Twitter is now 33% of Elon's original purchase price. Do you guys think that's like a fair valuation? As you were talking about, Tesla is not a fair valuation. Do you think Twitter's new valuation is fair?
I think it's fair. I think Twitter, as it was extremely overvalued when Elon Musk bought it. I mean, it was a company that never produced a profit, selling for billions and billions of dollars. And I think for a large reason that Elon bought it was, it's largely I don't want to say ego based, but over financially based. I don't think he really thought when he was purchasing it that it would be this massive cash cow of a company that would produce, billions and billions and billions of dollars. I think he kind of viewed it as kind of like a passion project, kind of like a billionaire's passion project in a way.
Yeah, I agree with Pierce. I think that the stock price drop was because it was extremely overvalued, and no one really realized until Elon took over and was kind of like you guys literally make no money at Twitter. How do we have all these employees and not a single thing gets done? So I think Elon brought to light a lot of the issues. So I would say it's valued pretty appropriately.
Yeah, I think he cut most of the employees, and you touched on this a little bit. He cut most of the employees and was still running the same operations, if not better operations than before the employee layoffs. And that really demonstrated the overvaluation of Twitter pre-Elon. But the next question I want to get into, it's a little more AI. So I've been watching a lot of videos at like 3 a.m. about like AI not taking over, but just like what the causes and effects of AI are going to be in the next 5 years. It made me think of the question, when do you guys think we're going to reach the point where AI becomes smarter than us? So it's usually referred to as a singularity, where AI is smarter than all of humanity combined. Do you guys think that singularity event is somewhere in like decades in the future or like years or months? What do you guys think?
Well, I think right now, I think AI is smarter than us in terms of like information, purely information based. Maybe not thought wise yet. I think we'll be there in a few years, but I think information based. You want ChatGPT, look anything up. It gives you a really in-depth response. It'll probably write better than you. It'll probably do all these things better than you. So information based, I think it's already better than us, but maybe thinking wise, it has a few years to go.
Yeah, I agree with Pierce. I think it kind of depends on what you define as like smart. There's like street smart and book smart. Book smart, it's definitely smarter than we are. I can ask GPT something and it'll know it better than I will, and it'll know it better than I will forever. There's nothing that's going to change that. But I don't think that AI is able to be more creative than me. I don't think it's able to create more things than me, right? I think it's like something I would use because it's more book smart. So I don't know if I'd say it's smarter than us, but I do think that we're a couple years away, like what Pierce said, from it becoming more creative and able to innovate better than us.
Yeah, I don't think they're smarter than us yet. I hope. I know Sam Altman is the only one who truly knows. But in the next GPT versions, we're on GPT-4 and GPT-5. If it's able to self-iterate itself, where it's producing new versions that are smarter than the last version of itself, and it gets quicker and quicker with that. I think we only have, if ChatGPT-5 comes out in the summer or maybe the fall, we only have maybe a year before we reach that singularity point and it's smarter than us. But do you guys think like, are you guys worried about that? Or is it kind of like whatever?
I mean, I'm pretty worried. I feel like it's coming for a lot of jobs. It's really going to hurt people. Like it makes some lives easier, but to what extent does it make our lives too easy to where we no longer have purpose? Like, why do anything if this AI will be better, if it'll be smarter? What's the motivation? If everything you can do can be done by something that's not even real.
I think it's a good point, and I think the value of art and writing and philosophy is going to become way more important because all of our knowledge-based work is going to be taken over. And with that, because a lot of jobs are going to be lost, do you guys think the importance or the need of universal basic income increases?
I think with AI, I agree. I think to add on to that, I think AI as a whole causes this huge economic inequality that this is going to be unprecedented where we haven't even seen it in the biggest times of economic inequality now or back far whenever you look at history, we're not going to see a difference in income that we're going to see through AI. Because what you're going to have is you're going to have the people that, like the Elon Musk of the world, the people that are creating this AI, and then you're going to have the people that are benefiting from the AI. And are they really benefiting? They're going to lose their jobs. They're going to, a lot of stuff is going to be replaced. So I think Andrew Yang, I think we talked about him in a previous podcast, but he was the first politician to really introduce universal basic income. And I think it's a very valid question of like when I think it's not a question of like when or like if we're gonna need it, it's a question of when we're gonna need it. So it'll be interesting. Like when do you guys think we're gonna need it, I guess?
Um, I don't know. I think as far as UBI, I think we've checked it out a little bit, and it's been moderately successful. I'm not completely educated on this topic, but for COVID, we had to implement that a little bit with the stimulus checks. And from what I know, it worked fairly well. I think the people who needed that money got that money. And I think it kind of showed that UBI might work.
I think the problem with UBI during COVID was that it created huge deficits. But with AI, right, we should like all the jobs that are being lost should be replaced. But then how does the government go about collecting money on that, right? Do they tax corporate jobs like or corporate companies more to make up for the fact there's no longer income tax on the people whose jobs are replaced? I think it's really tricky because you need to make sure that the United States is still like making money because we can't just keep printing out stimulus checks, right? So somehow the US government needs to make money. And so if like AI is replacing jobs, then you'd have to tax corporate companies more in order to cover the losses of like income tax from individuals since they're no longer working.
Yeah, but I think because of AI, we'll be more efficient as a country. Like all the industries will become more efficient because their processes become automated. And I don't know, like if the automated makers are gonna like increase prices for the deployment of that automation, but I think the price of labor will decrease for that automation, and therefore I think the entire country's GDP will increase. So I think we'll be able to cover a lot of those stimulus or UBI needs. I think UBI would be a good solution to that wealth inequality, or at least like the basic needs of the people.
I think you also bring out a really good point there. I'm not going to talk for too long here, but I think economic inequality between countries is going to be another huge issue that we're going to run into, where we're going to have, we kind of have it right now with the US, and maybe you look at like another country and it's just, trillions of dollars difference. But we're going to look at the poorest countries without the help of like richer countries in a way. And they're going to be really, really, really left behind with the AI movement. I mean, really, it's going to be devastating for them.
I mean, if you look at, so yeah, I think AI commonly gets referred to, or not compared to the internet and the invention of the internet. But I think it might be something which I think you showed a little bit as the Industrial Revolution, where the countries that were not industrialized really fell behind compared to the countries that were industrialized. And I think AI could be something that's really similar to that, where our society changes because of the new tech, and so does our position compared to the other countries. And I think countries that aren't as developed and don't have that automated tech yet are really going to fall behind to us socially and economically. Do you guys like agree with the comparison to the Industrial Revolution?
Yeah, but I think that I'd say exactly for like country versus country, right? If you're not getting in on AI, like this is the new Industrial Revolution. Everything will be automated. Everything that you need to know will be through it, right? So our lives are centered around factories in the Industrial Revolution, and now it's AI. So I think that's a really good comparison. I think individuals, however, won't benefit as much as they did in the Industrial Revolution, where there's like an emergence of the middle class. I think unless the government steps in, AI will create a big class divide within countries, that is.
I think that's a good point. I think post-industrial revolution, a lot of people had to work in the factories for a long time. And I think it might be the opposite with automation, where people might be out of jobs for a long time, but eventually it might self-correct itself where people get back into jobs, or there's a new need for jobs because of AI that just hasn't occurred yet. Do you guys think that'll happen where it's just like there'll be an initial big change, but then it'll self-correct to like what it is today, regular?
Ooh. Self-correction is like really hard, I think. I mean, we always say this, but I think AI is like a movement that we haven't seen. Like we don't really know what's going to happen in the future because we haven't seen like how it can be implemented. And I know it could be, we all know it can be implemented in like a number of ways, but I think the amount of jobs that it's going to displace and how people will recover from that is still really in the question. So I don't know if it's going to necessarily bounce back the economy or not the economy, but the job market, or how that's going to work out.
Yeah. I think that was a very good AI conversation, but I think another thing that we're seeing now, not just in the future, is the recession and the regional fears. So going back into March and April, there were a lot of fears about the recession during the summer, and now we're in the summer, and recession doesn't seem very close. And I think that's in part because of this AI boom that we're seeing. A lot of people aren't as fearful of the future. Do you guys think AI is a cause for that lack in recession and regional bank failures?
Well, so like about like the fears being kind of, I just want to say something like real quick. I was slightly off topic, but I do think banks are like small regional banks, especially, but banks in general are going to have a hard time. I don't think we'll see the effects for a while, but if interest rates stay where they are, a lot of people have mortgages out or loans, and the banks are losing money, and that's not good. Like I know the bank run fears are gone. However, the banking industry, I think, will take a heavy hit when all these unrealized losses come to light. So I think that's something that we need to look at. I think in a couple of years we'd see some more banking fears. However, I don't think there'll be like bank runs. I think there'll just be like massive drop in stock prices when they become realized losses.
Hmm. Do you think people will stray away from investing into banks and more into tech?
Like, do you mean when they see these unrealized losses, or you mean
Yeah,
like,
like they'll just like post dot com bust, but in the other way around, where people will want to stray away from investing in banks and they only invest into tech.
I think it's hard to say. You can't really predict human nature in like that sense. I think that people will be more afraid to invest into it after seeing like that these banks are sitting on huge unrealized losses, right? But eventually the market will come down to a price where people think are fair. If no one's buying and people are selling, the stock price will have to be bought up eventually. So I do think that they'll lose some good market cap. However, I don't think that people will kind of stray away from them or like act like this is a huge issue that can't be fixed. It's just unfortunate that they gave out loans at like 2% and now rates are at like 6.
Uh, in terms of like if AI is behind the run in the market, I would say it definitely is a huge contribution to it because if you look at like the S&P, for example, I would say the largest companies that are in the S&P have something to do with AI, like Microsoft, most of the large companies at least. Microsoft, Tesla, all those companies, they all have something to do with AI. So I think like any type of technological innovation is really important for the tech sector. But at the same time, I think we've seen on the other hand of things, we've seen a lot of companies that haven't been able to recover, specifically in the really, really high growth area. So I think rather than like the market, still being like kind of a weird market, I think now we're kind of seeing where the companies that are good companies that are producing, revenue and producing like potential profits in the future, they're worth what they should be, and the companies that aren't what they were during that crazy run earlier, where they're insanely overvalued and have no chance of profitability, they're traded pretty low still. So I think the market's kind of figured out itself in that manner at least throughout the past months.
Sounds like a bull market. You guys ready for a bull market?
I'm
Yeah.
right. I, I
Dude,
I love bull markets. I love money.
dude, you're a bear. What are you talking about?
I mean, no, I'm bearish. I think that people don't realize that the recession isn't really completely gone. There's still like I still have a little bit of fear there. And also I am pretty bearish on banks because like they are on unrealized losses. That's just a straight fact. And people like to ignore the fact, but it's still there to me. But I mean, if people want to run up the market, I don't care. That makes me happy.
Um, I think Pierce touched on this a little bit, but going into next week, last week we were highs in like every sector. Do you guys think that bullishness will continue?
I think so. I think we'll see a pretty bearish week.
Hmm.
With the debt agreement, debt ceiling being lifted, I think that was bullish. Today we got news it passed the House, I believe, which the market's up like a percent and a half, I believe, which I think that will carry on. I think that a lot of the fear is leaving now, and I'm pretty bullish for this week.
I'm pretty bullish. I mean, earnings for the most part, Nvidia, of course, fantastic earnings. They raised their future because of AI. They raised their future to I think it was over like 50% of what their expectations were previously. But other companies like Lululemon beat, MongoDB beat today. There's so many companies that are beating earnings, and I think it's a really sign of a change in the market, and I think it's a sign of bullishness in the market.
Yeah, I think you guys are totally right, and I agree with you. I think we have a very bull market coming up. I might be wrong. Inverse Jacob might come back. I remember my FRC bullishness, and then
Yeah.
and then they,
Yeah.
they went bankrupt. So maybe I'm wrong. But do you guys want to talk about anything else before we wrap it up?
Uh, One thing I think that's important is Lululemon earnings. I really want to emphasize this. I think Lululemon is a really high, it's a high price brand. So my view on the market as well entails Lululemon, where if Lululemon's beating, I think the market as a whole is doing well because people buy Lululemon when they think they have financial security in a way, I think, in a lot of ways. So I think since Lululemon, we saw Lululemon beat again. We've seen like a lot of like AAA, all those companies beat. I think it's a really good sign for the market.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Alex, you want to add anything?
No, I think it was a good point by Pierce, but I had nothing else to add.
All right, so that wraps up the 7th episode. We're sorry we didn't post on Sunday. We usually post on Sunday, but we do have something else coming on Monday potentially, and that'll make up for it. It's very cool. We'll see it soon. Thank you for watching or listening.